Hello sharks. My name is Veazie, and today I would like to present a company known as Biomasterful Energy. A company that would specialize in creating biomass renewable energy by utilizing charcoal and creating biofuels using algae farms. This method of energy production is not only widely available and less expensive than fossil fuel-based energy sources, but it also will have a much lessened effect on the CO2 emissions, which we'll get into a little bit later. Interesting. So before you dive into your company specifically, tell us more about this biomass energy. Of course, sir. So it's important to remember that most renewable energy actually comes from the sun. The sun helps provide energy to plants, which we can then utilize to create energy for ourselves. Biomass energy involves the usage of many different materials, such as wood, animal products, manure, plant remains, and MSW, also known as municipal solid waste, as well as liquid fuels like ethanol and biodiesel. So biomass is essentially just energy from the sun. And what's great about biomass is how abundant it is. You can find these materials anywhere across the world, which is why it already accounts for 10% of the world's energy consumption. Okay, so give us an example of this. Sure. So one of the most simple examples of biomass energy is just a fire pit, right? You go to the forest, you harvest some wood, you come back and then burn that wood to create heat for cooking. That's biomass energy. Obviously, things become more complex as you begin to use biomass energy for bigger and better things. But in places like developing countries, they utilize biomass energy like this every day for things like cooking and heating. As for biofuel is when plants like corn or sugarcane are fermented into ethanol. This ethanol can be used as a replacement for gasoline, but is oftentimes mixed with gasoline to create biofuels like E85 or flex fuel. These can be used by vehicles across the world. Okay, so talk me through some of the benefits of biomass, because right now, I just don't see a reason to do it. Well, to start, biomass is renewable. Trees, plants, animal manure is all going to be available to use at any time for energy consumption, as long as the rate at which one uses them for energy is equal to or less than the production of said materials. For example, I can't use corn to create biofuels, but then not replant the corn. Furthermore, a big thing about using biomass energy over fossil fuel energy is that biomass is carbon neutral. Well, what does that mean? I'm glad you asked. See, when fossil fuels are used for energy, it is known that it releases carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Same happens with biomass. The difference is that the carbon released from biomass was only recently taken from the atmosphere before it's sent back. But fossil fuels, they are releasing carbon that had been laying dormant for millions of years. The biomass is just returning already circulated carbon, but the fossil carbon is just piling more CO2 into the atmosphere. Think of it like spending a dollar you were just given versus spending a dollar from your life savings. The dollar you were just given is just being returned into the economy, which wouldn't change the amount of money in circulation. But spending a dollar from your life savings would be adding more money into the economy that isn't already in circulation. And that would help reduce the impact on global warming, right? Exactly. Plus, biomass energy will help reduce the over-reliance on fossil fuels, and it is less expensive than fossil fuels. And on top of both of those, it adds a revenue source to the manufacturers, making it a more profitable business. Now, while we love hearing all of these benefits, I have a hard time believing there's no negatives to this method of energy production. Right you are, Mr. Shark. See, one of the biggest downsides is that it isn't as efficient as normal fossil fuels. You're not going to get the same amount of energy per kilogram out of biomass energy as you are going to with fossil fuels. It also can put many air pollutants into the atmosphere, such as carbon monoxide, NOx, and VOx, all respiratory irritants. Furthermore, oftentimes, those who use biomass energy have poor farming techniques that can lead to soil erosion, deforestation, etc. But if one produces biomass energy correctly, not only will it reduce CO2 emissions, but it is also more cost-effective and more widely available. Okay, I think I get it now, but in what way does your company intend to produce bioenergy? Right, because if there's this many risks, your company has to be doing it right. Fair point. So within Biomasterful Energy, we intend to create regular biomass energy with charcoal as well as biofuel through algae farms. We would cut down wood from forests into long strips, which would then be heated in the absence of air to make sure that the wood doesn't just burn away. As a result of this, the wood would decompose into various substances, one of which being charcoal. This charcoal could then be used in a variety of ways, such as heating in a grill, to create energy. And during this process, we would make sure to utilize proper farming techniques when cutting down and using wood to prevent deforestation. This charcoal would then be able to provide 30 megajoules of energy per kilogram. As for creating biofuels with algae, Our company would create multiple controlled algae farms where oil would be extracted from the algae and then converted into ethanol, which can be used by vehicles across the world. We would infuse the ethanol with gasoline in certain situations as well to create E85 and flex fuel. While the current rates of algae-based gasoline are very expensive at about $33 a gallon, it is very feasible that with your investment, we could research into how we can bring this price down and create a much more environmentally friendly fuel for people across the world. We'll invest.